Emma Grede is a trailblazing entrepreneur and investor, reshaping the modern consumer economy. As CEO and co-founder of Good American and founding partner of Skims, she's built brands grounded in inclusivity and authenticity. She's also the host of Aspire with Emma Grede, a podcast spotlighting the next generation of founders and change makers. Grede's success proves that cultural connection isn't just good marketing, it's good business.
Hello, Emma. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. And thank you guys. I'm not Dan, so thanks for taking me for 20 minutes here. Emma, we've got big news that we can start with here because Skims, for anyone who doesn't know, just a $5 billion valuation after $225 million capital raise. That's double the market cap of Victoria's Secret, by the way, that $5 billion.
You said it.
It's a huge number. What does it tell us about the story of the brand and where it's at right now?
You know, honestly, I think this latest round is really just, it just shows an enormous confidence in what we've built and what we're doing and in the future of the brand. And so, for me, I think that the plan is as it's always been. I hope that in 10 years, you'll find Skims in any mall where you would find Apple or Nike, and it shows tremendous confidence in what we're building.
Well, let's talk about that, because you're opening physical stores at a time when that's certainly not happening for your competitors. Was part of the capital raise meant to shore up money to be able to fund those higher cost efforts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're opening a store a month right now, and so it's incredibly capital intensive, as anybody knows. But we have very, very special stores and very special needs, and I think as the brand continues to grow and we look at where the opportunity is from a category perspective, we just launched a kind of best-in-class, first-of-its-kind partnership with Nike, and that's an entire new company. We had Skims Beauty to look forward to, and so that's going to require a very different retail format to where we are today.
To what degree do you see beauty as an area that's going to be future success driving for Skims?
I think it's a huge opportunity for us. I think that the beauty of a brand like Skims is that you only have to close your eyes and you can envisage and imagine what we're going to do in any category. And that's the beauty of having such a specific aesthetic and a point of view on product. And so, for me, I don't get carried away with any of these things. It's like straight back to work and back to what we're doing.
Well, on the topic of back to work, I do want to zoom out, and I want to go back to when you founded ITB, marketing agency. Mm-hmm. I know that you've talked about how working in talent-based equity deals then really helped inform how you started Good American. Can you explain to the room what talent-based equity deals are for anyone who may not be familiar, and how that played into the Good American founding story?
Yeah, so I guess, the beginnings of my career was really working as a broker. It was like the most unglamorous, unsophisticated world of putting together brands and talent and working at the intersection of entertainment and brands. And, in a way, I fell into what I was doing. I started, putting artists and designers and more kind of like creative talent together with brands, and then the tide turned and everybody wanted to work with talent. And after 10 years of putting together some of the kind of biggest deals in that space, again, it shifted and brands started to come to me and say, hey, what if we gave X, Y, or Z some equity in this partnership? Well, it's no surprise to anyone. There's no way for me to commission equity. And so I was like, I better do one of these for myself. And that's how Good American was born. It was a thirsty broker that wanted to do something different and make some money, because I felt like I'd been creating like a lot of value for everybody else, and that's where it came from. Frustrated agency girl.
But I love this idea of you saw white space and went after it. I kind of wonder if you are sort of redefining what a talent-based equity deal could look like in the future, because now you are the talent. Emma, you've got millions of social media followers, you've got a podcast, you've got a book coming out, you're on TV.
Well, tell the brands, I mean.
Well, is that the next step for you, to create a company where you are the talent?
I could never think about myself as talent in that way. It's like I do what I do because I love doing it. But I go to work every day, 5 days a week. I sit in an office and I work at my day job, and I think that I'm really lucky lucky that I'm in a position where I can write a book. My first book comes out next year. It's called Start With Yourself, which tells you everything that you need to know about me. But you know, that's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on taking this idea that, you know, there's such a thing as being an overnight success, because the reality is I've had a job since I was 15 years old, and it's only now that, you know, I'm 43, I'm experiencing a lot of success, but it's the culmination of everything that I've done, all the jobs that I've had, all of the agencies that I've started, all of the failures that I've had, and now it looks really shiny when you read a headline, but the reality is there's been a lot of work behind that, and so I'm really trying to be honest and share what it takes to be successful and all of the mistakes that it's taken me to get here. And of course, you know, I'm a mum of 4 kids. And so when I write a business book, it's through a lens that's maybe slightly different than that of any of my counterparts that are in the same space. So I'm just trying to be really honest and let people know that, you know, it's my opinion that you can't manifest your way to this stuff. There's a lot of other things that are in it.
Well, I think that comes up a lot. I mean, I'm a markets reporter, so I see a lot of manifesting your way to wealth. And as someone who covers Wall Street, it's really hard for me to stomach that idea. Where do you think that people are, you know, especially in the social media era, maybe getting wrong this idea of manifesting success and wealth?
Well, listen, I'm the world's, like, I love positive mindset, and I think that I was born out of having, or my success has been born out of really thinking that part of my superpower is the way that I come into a room. It is the way I approach anything. And a lot of that is down to just like a predisposed mindset. But it isn't the only thing. And I think that we're in a time right now where there's just so much there's so much lipstick, right? There's so much performative stuff that doesn't really show you the underbelly of what it really takes. And so when I talk to people that work for me, and when I talk to especially like young people, I like to be really honest about the fact that, you know, for a period in my life, I worked 7 days a week. And for a period in my life, I made huge sacrifices. And still to this day, there is an enormous amount of trade-offs that happen between what it is that I've set myself up to do in my life and in my career and my life as a mother of 4 kids, and none of that comes particularly easy, but you have to choose your choice, and I've done that, but it's not without some hardships, and it's not without some sacrifice.
I wonder, I've always wanted to ask you this. When you talked about how you have to have a rich, extraordinary life, you've got to be willing to work nights and weekends. This clip went very viral.
Apparently people didn't like it.
I wonder if
Apparently I said something wrong.
Do you think it goes viral if a man says that?
Absolutely not. Have you seen Mark Cuban talk about work-life balance? No, of course it doesn't. I think there's a preconception that as a woman, you know, we got to like love our teens and treat everybody like family. And the truth is that's just not my experience, right? It's like the people that get you to $100 million are not the people that get you to 500 million, and they're certainly not the same people that get you to $1 billion. And so there is an element of behavior and expectation that is affixed to women, whether we like it or not. And when you behave counter to that, somehow you're a monstrous human being. But the point is, like, we all know that that isn't the truth, and that 2 things can be true at once. You can at once be a sympathetic, empathetic, fantastic leader and be absolutely laser focused on building something great and succeed at that. And so again, I think a lot of what I'm trying to do in my book, Start With Yourself, is just demystify what it takes and just be very, very honest about it. And within that, yes, I happen to say some things that don't sit right with everyone. I'm like, well, that's okay. Like, don't do what I did. Don't read my book.
Right.
You know, choose something else. Manifest to something.
Right. But
there's plenty of those books.
I hear you talking about this idea of like you're in the office 5 days a week. You want
I am. 5
days a week at
1,
least.
2, 3, 4, 5.
But we have, you know, and I have covered the impact of this as well, this idea that especially for women, there is a positive of flexibility, of having that ability to not necessarily always
But let's be honest, I mean, any of us that work in modern workplaces today, there's no such thing as a 9 to 5 anymore. Nobody misses, you know, a parent-teacher conference or skips mystery reader when they work for us. Like, that's not the reality. But the reality is if you go home and you put your children to bed, the likelihood is that you might have to answer some emails at 8 o'clock at night. And I'm just trying to be real about that. I don't think that it's wrong to look for balance. It's wrong to kid people that it's something that it's not, right? And I think that extraordinary results are always coupled with extraordinary effort. And to say anything less than that is to set women specifically up to fail.
And going to a question that I know has been covered a lot today and that a lot of folks in this room may have, especially when it comes to some of the deal makers in this room, I wonder what you are seeing when it comes to the health of the consumer, what you're seeing in retail that you think maybe Wall Street isn't necessarily seeing.
Well, I don't know that if I can say anything that Wall Street isn't necessarily seeing. I mean, we're certainly seeing a slowdown, right? I think there are some really kind of quite frightening stats out there when you look at what, you know, households were spending monthly, specifically for, like, in online businesses, and where that's at right now. There's definitely a slowdown. But all that says to me is that you have to work even harder to get in front of customers, and you have to be where customers are at. And when I started, you know, Good American, certainly, it was very direct-to-consumer focused. It was in that bubble, in that moment where we so believed in that model, and we were like, that's all we're going to do. And I was very lucky that I had some older, wiser shareholders that said to me, you need to get that brand in the shops. You need to be in wholesale. You need to diversify. And so I think that we're in a time where diversification is key of your channels. And, you know, only the best wins, only the best rises to the top. And I'm really fortunate that I've been able to create brands that are considered best in class. But we have to work every single day at, you know, continuing to be that. And so there's never any time to kind of rest and feel like we got it, because we don't got it.
Well, and the policy keeps changing, right? And one of the things I'm curious about is how you've responded to tariffs and the impact that's had on your retail businesses. Have you thought about raising prices at all to cover those costs?
So far, we haven't had to do that. And I think that there was such a lot of talk for such a long time about tariffs that we were able to somewhat future-proof ourselves into that. But that's not cost that we've had to pass on to the consumer just yet. I think that tariffs are here to stay, right? Whatever happens, I'm not sitting here crossing my fingers hoping that something magical turns around. It's like the tariffs are here, they're here to stay, and we've just got to work with that. But I don't see it as any different to any other business constraints that we had. You know, I feel like in the last 8 years, we've been through so many things, so many unexpected things, and once you've got through COVID and come out the other side, you're like, we can do anything.
Did you feel like the supply chain challenges of COVID prepared you to handle tariffs?
100%, because we had to be diversified, right? There was no, okay, let's like remain in one country, let's stick to what we know. We've had no choice but to make sure. And also just the climate more broadly in terms of what's happening, I guess, like more politically. So we have had to be super diversified from a supply chain point of view.
What do you mean by that in terms of the...
Well, I mean, wars and, you know, economic instability everywhere. And so that's led us, you know, at one point, I feel like, you know, all of our businesses were very, very, you know, we did a lot of business and manufacturing in the US, and between the US and China, that was it. And I think that if you looked at our supply chain right now, nothing looks like that anymore.
And to your point of retailers have gone through a lot the last 5 years and forever. One of the things that I think about a lot too is the impact of weight loss drugs on retailers. You started Good American with this idea of extended sizing, and that was really part of the value prop. How does that shift in a world of Ozempic?
That is a really great question. And actually just like 2 weeks ago, we had a board meeting for Good American. Believe it or not, despite what the data says, right, that it's like everybody is on those drugs and that's, you know, more power to them, we haven't actually seen the shift in the size scale from a sales point of view. And so we know that it's happening. I don't know if it's because Good American is such a trusted resource for customers at both ends of the size set scale. So when we talk about more traditional plus and then teeny, teeny, tiny, because our business is really based on true inclusivity, right? So it's like very short, very tall inseams, the fringe sizes. I think that most retailers dip in and dip out of that, but Good American has only ever done all the sizes all the time. And so there's a consistency to our business and a consistency to the reliability from a customer perspective. So we haven't seen like a drop in, you know, plus sizes, but I don't know if the data's to believe it's to be coming, but so long as she's buying, I'll be making.
But that fascinates me because I talked to the CEO of Rent the Runway, and they told me that they were seeing more size 4 orders, size 2 orders than they ever had historically.
Yeah.
You're not seeing it at your
We are not seeing that anywhere. No.
It makes me think too about how you approached Good American, though. I feel like there's a business lesson there too, that it wasn't just about focusing on the plus size consumer. It was always accessibility for everyone.
Yeah, because also I think that you've got to speak to women in a way that they want to be spoken to. Nobody wants to be singled out based on the side of their butt, you know? It's like, that's not how we shop, that's not how we think, that's certainly not how women, you know, are attracted to what it is that they want to buy, right? If you want to buy a pair of pink leather pants, you want the pink leather pants. You don't want a size 12 pink leather pants. You just want what you want. And so we approached it that we would make everything in all of the sizes and we would let women make the choices. And I think that what you've seen is in so many retailers, the choice is narrowed because the people in charge are not usually the end customer. And so we've tried to always make sure that there is that running through our design team, running through the, you know, board level management of any of those companies is a true reflection of what the customer base looks like. Because then you stay honest and you stay true to not just the mission of a company, but consistently pleasing your customers. And I think that that's what these brands really, really stand for. And as a result, we're seen as not just a fad and something that makes sense for a couple of years, but we're a trusted resource.
Yeah, and I've heard you talk so much about this idea of being customer obsessed and understanding.
Obsessed, that's
what
all
the
I
customer
do.
wants.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder what advice you have for some other brands, especially this year, who have gotten into hot water for not necessarily understanding their customer. We had the Sydney Sweeney American Eagle ad, for example. What do you think that some brands might be getting wrong when they're working with certain celebrities or understanding their consumer in perhaps a not full way?
Well, look, I mean, you can argue this a million ways, right? Because I don't know that, and not to speak specifically about any one brand or any one talent, but it's like, what is a disaster anymore? Mm-hmm. You know, I often look at some of these, you know, seeming PR disasters, and I'm like, well, we're all talking about it. I don't think it hurts in a lot of ways, right? So is it really getting something wrong about your customer, or is it just getting noticed? And I think that the name of the game right now is cut through. How do you cut through? How do you get attention? How do you get eyeballs? And I think that we're seeing more and more interesting tactics as to how that happens, and everybody is completely aware that it's controversial today, and it's yesterday's news tomorrow, and it's totally forgotten by the week after. Yeah. And so I often wonder if there isn't more strategy there than perhaps we might all think.
And in a world of AI as well, I'm curious if that's even more important, and how you think young women and people in general should be AI-proofing their careers.
First of all, we have no choice but to AI-proof our careers. I have what I call AI Day, which is like a once every 6 week commitment from me to just sit and learn. And I am encouraging every single, specifically women in my organization, to do exactly the same. We don't have a choice anymore. It's like do or die. And you know, I was there the first time round when all the boys started learning coding, and I was like, whatever, like that feels nerdy, like I'm not gonna do that. And you know, kind of wish I did, and kind of put my kids in coding camp and was like, you guys need to do it. So I think that we don't have a choice. We have to future-proof our organizations and ourselves, and as much as it feels against the very ethos of what feels right to me right now, because what I'm craving is like real life, real conversation, real connection. It's one of the reasons that I love doing my podcast, because it's a 2-hour chat with a human being that I didn't know before. So it feels like not so much what I want right now, but definitely what I know I probably need.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. We're getting to the end, and I asked a lot of questions for you guys, but I want one for me. So this is just what I want to know from you, Emma. You've been very public about your fertility journey, and you've spoken about things that women should keep in mind when it comes to fertility. I would love to understand from you how you think women should think about when to start a family within their broader career ambitions. How do you balance when is the right time?
God, how presumptuous. How do I make myself... First of all, I'm a mother of 4. And I think that I have to caveat that. And I did have an interesting fertility journey. And with the risk of sharing too much, it wasn't what they told you it was going to be. I think that, again, you know, it's a through line in everything I do. Like, we have to be truthful with ourselves, with those that are in our care, and by that I mean my employees. And I think for a long time we were all told to wait and to freeze our eggs and cross our fingers and hope for the best when that feeling inevitably comes around. And it comes around for some women, it doesn't come around for all women. I think what I've learned is that the most brilliant, productive people in my organisation are the working mums. They have an amazing ability to put, to fit what should take an hour into a cool 20 minutes. And so they're always my preference. I'm like, if in doubt, hire a mother. I really believe what we have to understand is that what is scaring us right now is not actually the idea of having children or when to have children. It is that the idea of parenting has gone absolutely mental. And my message to all women is just to do less. I start every single Monday with a giant list, and then I go and I cross all this stuff off my list that, quite frankly, I don't need to do, because my kids don't need that. They don't need half of the things that we have been set up to believe that they need, and it certainly doesn't need to be just the requirement of the mother to do it. And so much of what I talk about in my book is like really thinking about what it means to be a parent. And my point of view is that I have to kind of give my kids the dignity of their own process, which said more simply means let them figure it out.
Let them.
I don't need to figure it out for them. I don't need to be the one running around like a headless chicken, like organising play dates and cutting sandwiches into heart shapes and like doing all the things that social media will have you do. My mum turned the TV on and was like, figure it out, kiddo. And it worked out kind of okay. So I think we can all just chill, and do it on our own terms, and that will be just fine.
That's a great place.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think I have to be less worried about it because I can just chill. The kid will live and it's fine.
Fine.
So,
mine are all alive and they're not even in the same city as me. It's totally
incredible. 4, and you have your career babies. We're out of time, but thank you, Emma. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.